So guys, today we are starting with the subject Environment and Ecology. Okay. So first I will discuss briefly the syllabus mentioned by UPSC and why Environment and Ecology is important. So I will briefly discuss about the pattern of UPSC also. Okay, Adit? And I guess that all other subjects are completed by this time. Majority of the portion is complete, environment is remaining, and maybe science and tech.
Science and tech, internal security, society, and international relations.
Okay. Fine. So every year about 10 lakh aspirants, 10 to 12 lakh aspirants, they fill the form of UPSC. Okay, and out of these, some 4.5 to 5.5 lakh students actually appear in the examination. They mark their attendance in the examination. And of these, depending upon the number of vacancies, just as this year we are having 1100 something vacancies, so maybe 12,000 students would be writing the mains examination. So the number is roughly 10-12,000. Out of 10 lakh, some 5 lakh will appear in the examination, and of them about 10-12,000 they are going to write the mains examination. So you can see here that about 98% student would be eliminated in this stage only. Okay, about 98% would be eliminated here. And out of those 10,000 students, about 2,000 students will be called for interview. So here 20% selection rate is there. Rejection rate is 80%. But selection rate is also 20%. Out of every 5 students, 1 student would be giving interview. And sir, of these 10,000 students who are writing the mains examination, there are about 2-3,000 students who pass the prelims by luck. So there are many students who are not prepared for the mains examination. For example, some of the students are there who have passed just by luck, and 2-3,000 students would be there whose optional is not prepared. So the competition is between 5-6,000 students. And of these 5-6,000 students, 2,000 will be giving the interview, and finally, depending upon the number of vacancies, 800 or 1,000 will finally make to the list. So the competition is very intense. This is cutthroat competition. Now, what is the role of environment and ecology? The maximum role of environment and ecology is at this stage. So you will be getting your ticket to write the mains examination, and you can never get this ticket without preparing environment and ecology and science and tech. Okay, understood? So what are the sources for environment and ecology? What do you think? No sources.
I don't know.
You don't.
Plutus has given us environment and ecology.
Okay. So this subject was included in 2011, and the most beautiful thing about this subject is that it is multidisciplinary. Okay. After the prelims examination, many coaching institutes give the breakup of the questions. That 12-13 questions were asked from polity section, some 15-16 questions from history section. Every year there is a breakup like this. And there is also a breakup that science and technology, there were 12 questions, and environment and ecology, there were 15 questions. From the geography, there were 6 questions, agriculture, 5 questions, likewise. So every coaching institute would be giving a different breakup. This is because environment is one subject which is having a lot of overlapping with polity. Polity in the sense, they might be asking questions about the Wildlife Protection Act of 1972, the Biodiversity Acts that India has passed in 2002, okay, Environment Protection Act, all the acts related to pollution, NGT, National Green Tribunal. So there is policy input also here. And there is a lot of overlapping with polity. Similar is the case with science and technology. There is a lot of overlapping with science and technology also. So it becomes very difficult to differentiate the question. Some will say that this question was from science and tech. Some will say that this was purely from the environment. So there is a lot of overlap with all these subjects. With geography also, we are having the topic of biome. Do you know about biome? Biome. What is biome? Okay. Lakshmi, Rohit.
585 in
NEET. Okay, NEET examination. Yes, 585. That is a very good score out of 720. Okay. So there is also some overlapping with agriculture. You can be sure that 15, 16 questions will be from the environment. So if you will look at the last few years, then 15, 20 questions were asked from the environment, and you cannot simply ignore the environment. Have you given any attempt yet? Attempt दिया अभी तक कोई? सेकेंड ईयर ग्रेजुएशन चल रही है. I told you that 98% elimination is there in the prelim stage itself. And if you will look at the cutoff of last few years, then cutoff is, we can say that safe marks are about 100 marks. So out of 100 questions, net 50 questions should be correct. Okay. So what should be the ideal attempt out of the 100 questions? 75 to 80. Absolutely correct. So you must attempt between 75 to 80 questions. This is the safe side of the attempt. And no matter how well you have prepared, अपने आप को कितने बड़ा गामा समझते हो, 20% of the questions that you are marking, 20% would be wrong. This is the standard error. I can say that this is the standard error. If the paper is easy, then the error would be 20%. Okay, so 20% of 75 is how much? 15 questions. That means your 60 questions are correct and 15 questions are incorrect. This is plus 120 marks and this is minus 10 marks. You are getting a net of 110 marks. You are comfortably above the cutoff line. So to achieve this level of accuracy, to do only this much error, okay, this is a very big achievement if you are doing this. Otherwise, when the paper is on the tougher side, about 25 to 30 questions would be incorrect. And the design of the paper is such that, okay, you will do this error. It is in the design of the paper. समझ रहे हो ना क्या कह रहा हूं? Sir, no matter how well you have prepared, not more than 50 questions will be from the standard sources. By standard sources, I mean Lakshmikant, Spectrum for History, okay, this standard book for economy. If you have revised them multiple times, then you would be able to do all these 50 questions. If you have revised the entire syllabus intensely, then you will be able to correct these 50 questions, which will be asked from the standard sources. Okay, and this is, I am telling you, the conservative estimate. Otherwise, the questions from the standard sources would be less. They can be even 40 to 45. They will be asking 15, 20 questions here just to demoralize you. सब कुछ पढ़ लिया, न्यूज़पेपर में भी नहीं था, कहीं भी नहीं था, कुछ क्वेश्चंस आपको दिखेंगे. Around 15, 20 questions would be such that in the examination. Okay, why they are doing this? Because they have to eliminate 98% of the student. And in this examination, हर एक बच्चा जो अपने आप को तुर्रम खां समझता है, वो इस एग्जाम के अंदर बैठ रहा है. Yes or no? IITians, people who have cracked AIMS in their first attempt, IITs in their first attempt. Okay, people who have cracked CA in their first attempt. So all these people, university toppers, हर क्लास का टॉपर यही समझता है कि यूपीएससी क्रैक करेंगे, है कि नहीं? And there are thousands of colleges in India. There are thousands of toppers. So UPSC knows that if they will be asking questions from the standard sources, people can even score 170, 180, or someone may even score 200 marks. Okay, so deliberately they are asking questions which does not make any sense. So those questions are there to test your temperament. Around 15 to 20 questions you can skip without any harm. Yes or no? And because the competition is very stiff, that is why the design of the question paper is such that UPSC has gained for itself that tag of unpredictable. So no? So you have to rely upon your guesswork in 30 to 40 questions. UPSC will force you to take chances. Out of the 4 options, they will force you to take chances. You will be in a position, you have read so much, you are having so much knowledge that you will be able to eliminate two of the options, and you will be left with 2 of the options where your mind will be confused. And here your temperament would be tested. You have to decide whether you have to attempt this question or not. So whenever you reach such a stage where you are 50-50 sure about the question, so you should go for such questions.
Time is 2 hours.
Time is 2 hours. Okay, if you have, suppose here you are having 95 or 98% accuracy, in 30-40 questions you have to take the chances. You will be able to eliminate 2 of the options and you have to guess between the 2. So in such kind of case, you have to trust your intuition. Whatever you have read, your intuition would be guiding to one of these options, and you have to take a call. कि सी गलत लग रहा है, ये नहीं हो सकता. ऐसा होता है ना, जब एक बार एग्जाम दोगे ये चीज समझ में आएगी. तो कोई भी बच्चा ऐसा नहीं होगा जो 50 से ज्यादा अटेम्प्ट कर लेगा. जो स्टैंडर्ड सोर्सेज से क्वेश्चंस आएंगे इतने ही आएंगे. अगर इतने भी सबने कर लिए तो सिलेक्शन के चांसेस ड्रास्टिकली इंक्रीज हो जाएंगे. यूपीएससी विल फोर्स यू टू टेक अ गेस इन अबाउट 30 to 40 क्वेश्चंस. और ये ब्लाइंड गेस नहीं होगा. दैट गेस वुड बी गाइडेड बाय योर इंट्यूशन. ओके, दैट गेस would be guided by your intuition. Now in these 30-40 questions, majority of the questions would be from science and tech, environment, and History, those questions which you will never find in spectrum. So majority of the questions will be from this part. No, polity I have counted this way. Polity will be from the standard sources. If you have revised Lakshmikant multiple times, 7-8 times, and if 13 questions were asked from the polity, you will be able to do 12 correctly. Okay. So polity and economy is very important as far as the static portion is concerned. Questions will be asked from the standard sources. So revision is the key. In the prelims examination, revision is the key. And your temperament is also required because you have to guess some 30 to 40 questions. You have to use the elimination strategy, your intuition would be guiding you, all this thing. Because the competition is very stiff. By design, the paper would be like this. So, in the environment, the focus area of the UPSC is national parks and sanctuaries, flora and fauna, conservation agriculture, low profile international organization. I will discuss about this later. Actually, low profile international organization means those organizations which do not get too much of highlight in the news. For example, if I talk about WWF or IUCN, these organizations remain in news every time. Yes or no? They remain in news every time, and these are high profile organizations. Everyone prepares about them. Everyone prepares about UNEP. Okay, where their headquarters are, or what is the composition of UNEP, like this. Role of each of these organizations, but we tend to ignore the low profile organizations which do not remain in news or which are so obscure that they do not get the highlight. So UPSC has even asked such low profile international organization. Okay, it means that even if any low profile organization is in news, so you have to prepare, you have to take into consideration that news also. What is the function of such organization? Only that much of information will be required. The beauty of the prelims examination is that you are having the correct answer in front of your eyes. You only have to identify what is the correct answer. And the ultimate thing which can help you is revision. Acts and policies, it's like Wildlife Protection Act, the Environment Protection Act. For example, they can give you the statement that under which act the Wildlife Crime Control Bureau is established, under which act the National Zoo Authority is established. So all of these are established under the Wildlife Protection Act. Who establishes the national park, the wildlife sanctuary, who changes the boundary of the national parks? Such kind of questions can be there. And such kind of questions have been asked in the examination. The concept and theory, it has been seen that in the past 4 or 5 years, only 1-2 questions are being asked from the concept and theory part. Okay, earlier in 2011, 12, 13 and 14, many questions were asked from the concept and theories, but now UPSC is not asking much from the concept and theory part. Their major focus is on the current issues. Understood? Now, sir, but we will be still doing the theory part. A little bit of the theory part would be covered in the classes, because you will be able to appreciate the current issues well if you understand the theory well. Okay, you can do the linkages with other subject, the linkages with other things in environment, or you can link the current affairs with theory only when you are having understanding of the theory. Otherwise, those linkages are not possible. You are very tired. You want tea? Now, in the mains examination, the syllabus mentioned by UPSC is they have simply mentioned biodiversity and environment, along with security disaster management, and conservation, environmental pollution, degradation, environment impact assessment. So all these topics would be covered in the classes, and for the prelims, they have mentioned general issues on environment and ecology, biodiversity, climate change, which do not require subject specialization. So the UPSC has kept the syllabus deliberately open. The syllabus is unbounded. They have not defined the syllabus, but the domains from where questions are being asked, based on that, we will be covering a certain part of the syllabus, which everyone is covering. Okay, every topper has done the same topics. We will be doing the same topics, and we will try to connect the theory with the current affairs. So in this class, what we will be doing, we will be covering the syllabus into two parts. One part would be static, where theory will be covered, and we will be covering some standard definitions, concepts. And for this part, the book that you can follow is NCERT of Bio. 12th class, last 4 chapters. That unit is of Environment and Ecology. And the second thing is contemporary affairs, means the current affairs. Yes, please.
Environment और ecology दोनों के लिए.
हाँ जी.
Environment और ecology दोनों के लिए.
दोनों.
The syllabus है same. Environment और ecology जैसे आप अभी बता रहे हैं static और contemporary.
Contemporary, I am referring to the current affairs. Okay. For example, I will make this more clear. This includes the current events and some of the issues which remain in news all the time. If I say that climate change is a current event, will you agree with this? Every now and then it is in news. It was in news 2 years back. It was in news 5 years back. It was in news 10 years back. All of you will agree with me? So the climate change, in fact, the climate change is in news since 1990s. It is going to remain in news for the next 2-3 decades. Okay? So that is why we are saying that these are the contemporary affairs. This is not one-time current event. The problem of ozone depletion, this all started in 1987, but still ozone depletion is relevant. Okay? Still it is relevant. Still we are having policy for the ozone depleting substances, and we keep on upgrading, amending those policies, suiting the current scenario. So I told you that UPSC, there some of the favorite topics are flora and fauna. So I think it was in the year 2019. Asiatic lion is naturally found in India only. Asiatic lion was in news at that point of time. There were many deaths in the Gir forest of India, and that is why they asked this question. So Asiatic lion is naturally found in India only. No, statement 1 is correct, but here statement 3 is incorrect. But it is found in Indonesia also. Okay. It is found in Indonesia also. So statement 3 would be eliminated, and you know that 1 is correct. So its answer is 1 only. I do not intend to check your knowledge by showing these questions. I just want to show that UPSC asked about flora and fauna. It is one of their favorite topic. They are in love with flora and fauna. If any animal is discussed in the news, you should prepare about it. Okay. Here the focus is this statement. Irrawaddy dolphin and Chambal river. So Irrawaddy dolphin in India, it is found in the Chilika lake. Every now and then, if you are covering the news well, you will see this. If Irrawaddy dolphins are discussed in India, it would be discussed in the Chilika lake, that part. And Chambal river is famous for ghadials. So you can eliminate B and D here. The answer for this was C, 1 and 3. Again, with reference to India's biodiversity, Ceylon frogmouth, coppersmith, barbet, grey-chinned minuet, ये सब हैं क्या? So all of these are species of birds. ये क्वेश्चन इस तरह का बहुत ज़्यादा फैक्चुअल है और जनरली हम ध्यान देते भी नहीं है. So it can be one of that question जो हम छोड़ सकते हैं. One among the 15-20 questions which you can safely ignore. Now please read this question. With reference to the Indian elephant, consider the following statements. During the COVID times, I think in 2020, there was this incident in Kerala where one elephant was fed with crackers. The pineapple was stuffed with crackers and they gave this pineapple to the elephant. And that elephant died later. She was also pregnant. So then they asked this question in 2020 prelims. The leader of an elephant group is a female. So this statement is also true. So why they are asking such questions? Such questions are not covered in standard textbooks. They are asking deliberately that how vigilant you are. They are in a way saying to you, we are going to ask such kind of questions. So how much prepared you are, you have to show them. In the static syllabus, these are the things we will be covering. The definition of ecology, environment, all these things. Concept of ecosystem and its structure, population, community, biosphere, energy flow in an ecosystem, autotrophs, heterotrophs, concept of food chain, food web, ecological pyramid. I will be covering all these things in detail in the classes. Okay. And you will be having this PPT so that you can check later on whether I have completed all these topics or not. Community structure, characteristics, species diversity, concept of ecological niche, geographical location. Species interaction, where we will be dealing with competition, parasitism, predation, mutualism, commensalism, deforestation, coral reefs. This topic is very important. Eutrophication, wetland. Biodiversity hotspots and mega diverse countries. And we will also be discussing about mangroves. Now, sir, the contemporary affairs. Sir, one major theme would be the climate change. All of you know about climate change. Okay. One would be the ozone depletion, and one theme would be the biodiversity. So the issue of climate change is going from 1990s. Specifically, it started with the Earth Summit of 1992. Happened? So this issue of climate change, it was discussed at the world stage for the first time in the year 1992 in a conference which is named as the Earth Summit. This conference was organized in Brazil. I will give you the details later on, but there was a conference where all the world leaders met and they were discussing the climate change, that we have to save the planet Earth from the climate change. Okay, we have to preserve the biodiversity, we have to combat desertification, and for this common goal, all the countries should be united. So this was decided for the first time in this summit. And this summit is famously known as the Earth Summit of 92. So after this summit, UNFCCC, an agreement was signed, United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. So one legal agreement was signed. That agreement was known by the name of UNFCCC, United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. All these things will be discussed later in great detail. Okay, now under the UNFCCC, one detailed agreement was reached, and that was known as Kyoto Protocol in the year 97. This is the parent agreement. सारे लोगों ने मिलकर डिसाइड कर लिया कि कुछ करेंगे अर्थ के लिए, क्लाइमेट चेंज को रोकना है. ठीक है, तो फर्स्ट डिटेल एग्रीमेंट यहां पर बात हुई थी कि कुछ करेंगे, इतना डिसाइड करके कागज साइन करके चले गए. बट लेटर ऑन वी वर हैविंग अ डिटेल्ड एग्रीमेंट कि करेंगे, लेकिन क्या करेंगे. सो that agreement was reached for the first time in Kyoto, which is a city of Japan, in the year 97. Understood? So this was the first detailed agreement where each of the country came into action. And then another agreement under this UNFCCC is Paris Agreement of 2015. तो ये सारी की सारी कहानी अभी जब भी कभी मीटिंग होगी, जब भी कभी मीटिंग होती है, all these things they come up in news. There are so many articles. If you know the complete story starting from 1990 all the way up to 2023, then you can connect all these events. Yes or no? So we will be doing that thing in the classes. Okay. So actually, all the countries who signed this framework convention, all the countries who signed this framework convention in 92, all of them became conference of party to the convention. Okay. And since then, whenever they are meeting, that is known by the name of COP1, the Conference of Parties meeting for the first time, the Conference of Parties meeting for the second time. For the third time, they met in Kyoto. This was COP3. In Paris, that was COP21. So the parties to this framework convention are meeting every year. They are deciding something about the future of our planet. All these countries, and majorly all these countries are members of the United Nations. So all these countries are deciding the future of the planet in these COPs. And these are held annually. Understood? So we will cover starting from 1990s all the way up to 2023. I will give you all the latest developments, and rest of the things you have to cover from the current affairs magazine or from the newspaper. Similar is the case with ozone. All the world leaders decided that we have to protect the life on the earth from the harmful ultraviolet radiation, and harmful ultraviolet radiations are reaching the earth because we are compromising the ozone layer. From the industrial manufacturing, we are emitting some ozone depleting substances which are harming the ozone layer. So for the first time in 1987, it was decided to abandon the use of ozone depleting substances and to find their alternative. अब ऐसा तो है नहीं कि एसी चलाने बंद तो कर नहीं दिए हमने. Ozone depleting substances were majorly used in the refrigeration industry. ठीक है, अर्थ को प्रोटेक्ट करना है, लेकिन ऐसा नहीं करना कि एसी बनाने बंद कर दिए. We are searching their alternative, but we are not using now ozone depleting substances. So this is also having a story of its own. This is also having a story of its own. And again in 2015, one more agreement regarding the ozone depleting substances was reached, and that is known by the name of Kigali Amendment. So under the ozone layer depletion, we are having these two major agreements, Vienna Convention and Montreal Protocol. And this was the agreement reached in 2015. जो आपने 1989 के अंदर डिसाइड किया था, अब वो आज के समय के हिसाब से हो सकता है कि रेलेवेंट ना हो. The agreement that we done in 1989, this is not relevant in the present times. That is why we reached another agreement, and that is why we are saying this as an amendment. It is the Kigali Amendment to Montreal Protocol. Okay, to suit the changing times. So we will discuss this in entirety, starting from the ozone chemistry and all the way up to the Kigali Amendment. Understood? In the same manner, we will be discussing about biodiversity. Just as we are having the first agreement on climate change, UNFCCC, the first agreement on biodiversity was CBD, Convention on Biological Diversity. United Nations Convention on Biological Diversity. Understood? Under this also we are having certain conventions. So this is the theme which we will be covering in contemporary affairs. Climate change, global warming, and we will discuss starting from Kyoto Protocol to Paris Agreement. All these small events will be discussed. Difference between UNFCCC and IPCC. The Earth Summit of 92, from where everything started off. Agenda 21, Rio +5 +10 +20. These will be discussed later. Rio is a city in Brazil. Okay. So in the year 1992, we were having a conference of the world leaders. That conference was named as the Earth Summit. So this Rio +5 is, Rio +5 means 5 years after the Rio Summit of 92. Rio +10 is, that is 2002, 10 years after the Earth Summit. Rio +20, 2012, 20 years after the Earth Summit of 92. And it is also named as the first summit on sustainable development. Recently, one summit has been concluded in Canada. Do you know about this? You are not reading the newspaper? Recently, one summit has been concluded in Canada. That summit was regarding the biological diversity. So, Convention on Biological Diversity, it is a different theme. Under it, we are having two major agreements, Cartagena Protocol and Nagoya Protocol. Okay. So whatever events are going on, whatever current events are going on, they would be related to one of the three things, either to the climate change or to the biodiversity, and some might be related to even ozone depletion also. So I told you that the major agreement under the climate change which we have to discuss in our classes, those two major agreements are, we have UNFCCC, which is the parent agreement, and under it we have Kyoto Protocol and Paris Agreement. Okay. Under the ozone, we are having Vienna Convention, and we are having the Montreal Protocol. And under Montreal Protocol, then we are having Kigali Amendment. Then Convention on Biological Diversity, we have Nagoya Protocol, and we are having Cartagena Protocol. आईची बायोडाइवर्सिटी टारगेट्स, और अभी एक कॉन्फ्रेंस हुई है कि इस डेकेड के अंदर हम क्या करने वाले हैं. अंडरस्टूड? ईच ऑफ दीज एग्रीमेंट वुड बी डिस्कस्ड इन डिटेल इन द क्लासेस. अभी सिर्फ मेंशन कर रहा हूं कि हम करने क्या वाले हैं. अंडरस्टूड? देखो थोड़ा सा बताता हूं. यहां पर हम बात करें अगर कार्टाजीना प्रोटोकॉल की, ये पहले हुई थी, बाद में नागोया प्रोटोकॉल. दिस वाज अबाउट 2010. सर इन 2010 एक समिट हुई थी जापान के अंदर, जहां पर हम बायोडाइवर्सिटी डिस्कस कर रहे थे. ओके, देयर वाज अ समिट इन जापान इन 2010 वेयर वी वर डिस्कसिंग द बायोडाइवर्सिटी. So under the aegis of United Nations, this summit was organized. So during this summit, all the countries decided for 20 goals. That we are setting a target of 20 goals for us. We will be achieving all these 20 targets. And those 20 targets, those 20 goals, these were divided in 5 categories: A, B, C, D, and E. 4 goals under each category. Okay. So all the countries sat together in 2010, and then they decided that we have to achieve all these 20 targets. So these targets were to be achieved in the period 2011 to 2020. और थोड़ी सीरियसनेस दिखाने के लिए वहां पर हमने क्या किया, यूनाइटेड नेशंस के एजिस में सब कुछ हो रहा है. So the United Nations declared this entire decade from 2011 to 2020 as the United Nations Decade on Biodiversity. Are you with me? 2010 में सारे कंट्रीज बैठे थे, बायोडाइवर्सिटी की प्रोटेक्शन के लिए कुछ टारगेट्स हमने डिसाइड किए, 20 गोल्स रखे थे इस पूरी डेकेड के लिए. यूनाइटेड नेशन ने शाबाशी दी और यूनाइटेड नेशन ने डिक्लेयर कर दिया दैट दिस इज द डेकेड ऑन बायोडाइवर्सिटी. ओके, यूपीएससी का क्वेश्चन बन गया था दैट द डेकेड फ्रॉम 2011 टू 2020 इज द डेकेड ऑन बायोडाइवर्सिटी. अब 2020 अभी आया था, याद है ना? तो फिर यूनाइटेड नेशन जनरल असेंबली, द प्रेसिडेंट ऑफ द यूनाइटेड नेशन जनरल असेंबली, ही कन्वीन्ड अ मीटिंग. So that meeting was regarding how much of these targets have been achieved. How many of these targets have been achieved? So in 2020, the President of the United Nations General Assembly, with the help of UNEP, organized a summit just to know that which of these goals have been achieved. Can you guess कितने गोल अचीव हुए होंगे? एक भी नहीं. लक्ष्मी प्रसन्ना, रोहित. आई फीफा सही ले रहा हूँ मैं नाम उसका. So 0 goals were achieved during this decade. So 0 goals अचीव हुए हैं तो थोड़ा फिर परेशानी. कोविड का टाइम था, इस डेकेड के लिए कुछ अच्छा करेंगे, ये सब बात हुई है ना. एक भी गोल किसी ने अचीव नहीं किया. थोड़े बहुत में कुछ गोल्स के अंदर कुछ प्रोग्रेस हुई थी, अदरवाइज नो गोल वाज अचीव्ड. And everyone agreed that the COVID-19 spread because of we are interfering too much with the biodiversity. Okay, because we are destroying biodiversity, some of the animal pathogens, they have come so closer to the human civilization that now we are having this fear of getting infected from those pathogens. They were discussing this. So now recently, the summit on biodiversity has been concluded. It was the conference of Party 15 to the Convention on Biological Diversity in Canada. Again, we have decided for some targets for the humanity. Okay. In 2022 December, that summit has been concluded. It was COP15, Conference of Parties to the Convention on Biological Diversity, their 15th meeting. They meet once every 2 years. Okay. So they have decided for some targets. करंट अफेयर मैगजीन्स के अंदर थोड़ा सा सीरियसली उसको पढ़ लेना. दोज हु आर अपीयरिंग इन 2023, स्पेशली यू गाइस. ओके. India is a signatory to the Convention on Biological Diversity. Okay, India is a signatory to this convention. इंडिया से भी कोई गया होगा 1992 में रियो में चाय पीने, है ना? बिल्कुल गए होंगे. So we have signed all the 3 agreements which were opened for signature there. We have signed all those 3 agreements, including the CBD. So वापिस आके we have passed some laws in India, the biodiversity laws in India. That is why India is having the Biodiversity Act of 2002. National Parks and Wildlife Sanctuaries, here we have to discuss the Wildlife Protection Act of 1972, the Biodiversity Act of 2002, the Forest Rights Act of 2006, NGT Act of 2010. जो भी साल अपीयर होने वाले हैं, बिना इनमें से कोई एक्ट पढ़े पेपर में मत जाना. Coastal Regulation Zone, if time permits you can do it, otherwise we can ignore this. India's National Action Plan for Climate Change, this is important. IUCN BirdLife International Sites and Traffic. If any one of you is reading newspaper on daily basis, you must have encountered these organizations. All of these are NGOs. Okay, most famous NGOs in the field of environment. Environment impact assessment. This will be discussed in 1 or 2 classes in great detail. Okay, and then there would be some news regarding the environment which cannot be connected to anything. You have to read them separately. Otherwise, everything is connected as far as environment and ecology is concerned. Got it? Now, sir, some of the basic terms. The word ecology, it is combination of 2 words, eco plus logy. And बचपन से पढ़ता है that logy means the study of. The word eco is used for house or household or the living relations. So initially this word was Ecology, because eco has come from the Greek word oikos. So initially the term was ecology, which later changed to ecology. And ecology here, we will be studying the earth as the home to humans. So it is simply the study of earth as the home of human being and other living creatures. Okay, this is the definition. It is the study of earth as the home of human beings and other living creatures. Now, whatever names come up in environment and ecology, all the names will be important. So these names are asked repeatedly in the state PSC examination. UPSC has not asked any of these names, but it can ask. The credit of coining and defining the term ecology is given to Haeckel, Ernst Heinrich Haeckel. He was a German scholar. So, according to Haeckel, ecology is the study of relationships between organisms and their environment. It is the study of relationship between organisms and their environment. We have to understand it like this. Consider an example. Suppose we are having a home. We are having a house, and here we are having husband, wife, and children, and there would be grandparents. Consider we are having a house. In that house, we are having husband, wife, their children, and the grandparents. So in this house, there will be multiple relationships. Relationships as in, there would be a relationship between husband and wife. There would be relationship between father and children, between the wife and children, between children and grandparents, between grandparents and wife and husband. So there are so many relationships here. Yes or no? So ecology is the study of relationships between the organisms and their environment. All of these organisms are interacting with one another. So there are these many relationships between them, and these are also interacting with their physical environment, which are the physical non-living things inside this house. And each of them is having a separate role to play inside this house, inside this unit. The grandparents are having the role of intellectual support. The husband, he is nurturing the entire house. He is going outside and bringing the resources. The wife is doing all the work inside the house, and the children's, their role can be seen as that they are spreading happiness inside the house. Okay, so this entire unit, we can describe this as an ecosystem. In the same way, in the natural ecosystems, there are so many organisms, and all those organisms are having so many relationships between them, and these organisms are also having a relationship with their physical environment. Understood? So in this description, Haeckel's focus was primarily on the living component. Okay, इन्होंने यहाँ पर ज्यादा तवज्जो दी लिविंग कंपोनेंट को, not to the non-living part of the environment. So this is all for now. We will continue from here in the next class.